as a kid, for as long as I can remember, I've always had this ability to kind of find find the right thing to say at the right time, and my whole life's journey has been about discovery. So we'll talk about that. But I'm so excited to talk about this subject today. I'm so excited to be part of this monthly series for you guys. We're so excited to bring just goodness. Let's just call it goodness to humanity. And by you guys showing up, by you guys sharing your goodness with others, we have an opportunity to do some wonderful things while we're here on this amazing planet and this thing called life. So I'll give you a little backstory about kind of how this all came to be. As I mentioned earlier, since I was a kid, I've always had this ability to just kind of know what to do. I've always had a smile on my face. I was the second of four kids, so I was that my mom always called me sunshine. In fact, my last name Lucero means bright star. So there's all these signs for those that love signs and numbers and all these different things that the universe provides, these little resources. My last name is Lucero. So I've always been kind of like this bright light everywhere I go. I've always seen the good in everything. I've always seen the lesson in everything. And even though my life has not been one of those lives that you go, gosh, how is Tony in the spot right now? So what we're going to talk about, and first, my intention today, this time we have with you, is to have you look at you and your business. I call it your isness because it is what it is. It's part of who we are. So how you now navigate from knowing all of this stuff and how everything around you is potentially a reflection. And so the intention is to have you look at the way you operate maybe a little bit differently from a different lens or a different filter or a mirror, if you will. And that's what's crazy about this conversation is this conversation is usually something this is something I've learned late in all my work that I've done. This whole idea of reflection, this whole idea of everything's a mirror. It happened very, very late in my life because as we're going through life, we're just going through it. We're not, we're moving so fast and things are happening. We're just like trying to put all the pieces together. We're trying to fix this and mend that and develop this and create this. And we got all this stuff going on. And so what's really unique about this whole idea of reflection, everything that happens now, I have a different perspective on it. So my intention for you guys today is to see yourself, see what's happening around you from a different perspective, a different lens. And then you're going to go, well, gosh, I should probably just fix that. I should probably work on that. I should probably put a little bit of energy on that. Right. So this is one of my favorite topics because it's the end. When we set goals, sometimes we always have like the end in mind, like, okay, what is the master plan? So the master plan is I'm going to blah, 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 blah. Well, okay, now what do I have to do along the way to get to blah, 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 blah? So it's kind of interesting we're having this conversation right out of the gate because as I'm bringing this to the forefront in your consciousness, you're going to start going, oh my God, that's why that happened. That's why that keeps happening. That's why this is not happening. So it's going to be interesting and kind of an eye-opening and a heart-opening for you too. So let me go and share my screen. And as I do, make sure you guys can see this. Okay. All right. You guys see that? Me
Yeah.
walking on the beach there? Cool. All right. So let's talk about this whole idea of reflection. Okay. And when I mean reflection, it's the mirror. It's the things that you look at. It's the things that you see. It's the things that are around you. It's everything. Everything I feel directly is a reflection of who I am. Okay. And as I start talking about this, you're going to go, well, geez, that's true because that's why this person is this way. And that's why this person is this way. And that's why I'm having problems with this or how this is why I'm unable to move through this. So I see now everything as a reflection of me. And if I don't like what I'm seeing around me, then I've got to figure out how to manipulate. Now, I use the word manipulate, and that's not a bad thing when you manipulate something. I use it actually as a good way. So I want to kind of share my story with you. It will kind of give you some context on how and why I'm so awake and to what I'm about to teach you because it's showed up so many times in my life. So my childhood is very interesting. My mom was married 4 times. In those 4 times, I really never had a father. I never had a father that said, "Come here, son. Let me love on you. Let me show you the way." I never had that. In fact, the father that raised me from the time I was 5 to 11, so 7 years of my life, which is really interesting if you guys understand numbers. Like seven is a very interesting number, very powerful number. But from those 7 years of my life, I was groomed for failure. My dad used to tell me every day that I was worthless. I never amount to anything, that I'm stupid. Don't even try. You're too small. No one loves you. You're not even my kid. I don't love you. Get out there and stay out of the house, pretty much is kind of what I was going through as a kid. So my childhood, although I had a loving mother, I had, two brothers and sisters at the time, actually four when all said and done. My childhood was very, I don't want to say dysfunctional. It was just in a really weird frequency. I like to use the word frequency because if I say, yeah, I had a traumatic childhood or I had this going on, it takes on more weight. So if I just said, hey, you know what, my frequency of my childhood wasn't so good. Okay. So I always like to use the word frequency. My childhood was a childhood where I did have love from my mother, but it was just so intermittent because there was so much stress in the childhood. Raise your hand if you can relate to me a little bit. No? Okay. Okay. Perfect. Okay. We got some dysfunction happening. It's all good. It's everybody's got a childhood. You guys, when somebody comes to me and go, well, Tony, you don't know my childhood. Well, okay. My dad used to yell at me, beat the crap out of me, tell me every day I was worthless, stupid, used to drink a lot, used to throw my mom around the house. So yeah, you're right. I probably don't understand your childhood. So that's where I came from. But what I realized at a very young age, I realized how to shift or manipulate what was happening to me. So I kind of felt like I was in a movie. And it was when I was a little bit later in life, I found out probably the most defining thing that I'm going to share with you guys today. I found out what my navigator was. I found out what my filter was. I found out what my compass was, how I was going to show up, what my captain was, how I was going to show up every day. And that happened a little bit later in my life. It happened at a very interesting time. By the way, during my childhood, I used to suck my thumb and I peed the bed until we actually left. The day that we left that environment was the day I stopped sucking my thumb. So 11 years old, stopped peeing the bed when I was 11 years old. Kind of interesting how we hold on to all these things, right? So I found out what my navigator was. I found out and discovered this thing called frequency. And one of the later talks I will do, and Elaine's heard me do this, is one of the later talks I'll do is I'll talk specifically just about frequency, because once you understand frequency and how everything is a frequency, which I know you guys know this, but when you really, really understand how you can truly manipulate frequency, which are emotions, thoughts, feelings, actions, manifestation, when you know that you can do that, you guys, your life will take on a whole new way of being. And when I know that I now can manipulate frequency, things are different. So for example, my mom, when I was a kid, my mom used to, when she said, you got to learn how to play a musical instrument. So I'm in this stressful house and she says to me, in more stress, besides school, besides everything else going on, you have to learn a musical instrument. I was, I think, 7 at the time. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I just said, okay, I'll pick the guitar. So I picked the guitar and every Tuesday I'd have lessons. And I used to get mad at my mom every Tuesday because I had these stupid guitar lessons. Well, my mom always knows best, as you guys know. Moms always know best. And what she was doing indirectly is she was allowing me to learn something. And anytime this gentleman would come at me, guns a blazing, my stepfather, is when he was done, I would pick up my guitar and I'd start playing. And all of a sudden the energy and everything shifted. So I understood that this frequency, this sound shifted me and I got to shift along with it. And so I learned frequency at a young age. I also learned at a young age how to manifest or how to create things. And we're going to talk about this as well today. How I became a creator, and understanding when I manipulated frequency, and I understood this navigator that I had, and that the childhood that I had was shaping me for something much bigger and better, that I started to be able to understand that I could create things. I could create friendships. I could create, jobs later in life. I could create money when I needed it. And so I really started playing at a very young age without even realizing it until I read the book. I think it was in high school, Think and Grow Rich, right? Where we understood the law of attraction, things like that. So it wasn't until like later in high school, even when I read that book, I just still understand it. This is something I've been doing my whole life without even knowing there's this thing called this law of attraction, this thing called manifestation. I had just been doing it. But I started really playing with the idea of creating things and creating different scenarios in my life. And then I discovered something that was really cool, which is very interesting, is my personality when we talk about reflection, my personality started shifting. And when my personality shifted, so did everything in my life. Everything shifted as my personality shifted. And I'm going to talk about this because this is very, very important, because you're going to be working with people. Some of you that are coaches, you're going to be working with people, and you're going to be able to see why things are the way they are for that person because of maybe the frequency they're in, maybe the child that they were brought up in, maybe their what they've created in their life and their personality. When you start putting all these pieces together, you start going, oh my gosh, this is why change doesn't happen, or this is what needs to happen in order for change to occur. And then I started realizing that my life is kind of a movie, right? So I started realizing very young, and again, this is happening, like high school, that I started realizing that I felt like I was in a movie. When I went into the Air Force right out of high school, I was 17 years old. I really felt like I was in some type of movie, an Oscar winning, war movie, going to boot camp and being yelled at, things like that. I just felt like, my God, this is like I'm playing dress up in a movie. And the scene would start and go, and Tony, you're going to be depressed in the scene, and action. And I would be depressed. And as soon as I got done with the scene would stop and I would go back to my regular life. And I was constantly in and out of these different scenarios in my life. And I know you guys have all too. But I started seeing myself as a movie. And once I started seeing it as a movie, then I realized that everything started taking on this idea of being a mirror. And this mirror is so interesting because now I can look into the mirror. I can look into my mirror. I can see my face and I can see everything I have around me. And I can go, oh, well, maybe this is why keeps happening over and over and over again. Okay, so there's some context on my backstory to kind of get to this point to where we're at today. And I want to ask you something. When we talk about mirrors, I want to ask you about something like this. Okay, so do you remember when you were growing up, and let's say you loved playing with, I don't know, a certain doll or a certain toy? Isn't it crazy how your friends had the certain doll, the certain toy, the certain thing? And as you got older, maybe you started getting into sports, and then you shifted in from now everybody that you hung out with played sports. And then maybe your music shifted. You started liking rock and roll music or 80s music or something. And then now all of a sudden, all of your friends that are around you, they all listen to the same type of music. And you go to, high school, you go to college, and you start shifting into different personas, if you will. Let's say that you're single. Well, isn't it interesting that when you're single, if everything's a reflection, how the majority of your friends that you hang out with are single? Okay, you might have some friends that are couples, but the reality is, if you're single, you're gonna hang out with single friends. If you drink, you're gonna hang out with people that drink. If you have a certain hobby, you're gonna hang out with people have that same type of hobby, right? If you are a positive person, there's a good chance you're gonna have a lot of positive people in your life. If you're a negative nanny, there's a good chance you can have a lot of negative people in your life. Guys, isn't it crazy if you think about this, that if everything is a reflection of you, everything around you starts to take shape on the type of person that you are. And so a lot of my friends now, a lot of them do coaching. A lot of them are very, very, business minded, have made maybe some decent money, have had some businesses that they've had success with. They're positive people. All of my really good friends, since I'm a golfer, they're all golfers. We all spend time golfing. A lot of my people that are hikers, because I like to hike. So it's interesting, as you shift, as you change, so does your environment, so does the world around you start to change, right? So if you're a single person, you probably don't hang out with families. You probably have friends that have, big families and stuff like that, but you don't go over there on the day to day. You much prefer hanging out with who you are, who your mirror is. And so as you take a look at your life and you start seeing pieces and things that you maybe are uncomfortable with or want to change or enhance, you have to start with yourself first. And the whole thing about what I have noticed in my life is this discovery of me, the discovery of me, discovery of me. This is what creates the world that I live in. And the work that I do on me is a reflection of everything that's around me. So we'll jump into that. So I want to share a very interesting story that it kind of at a young age set me up. And I encourage you all. In fact, I'm going to invite all of you at the end, is to maybe discover for you, what is going to be your navigator, what is going to be the captain of your ship, or the compass that is going to navigate you through your life. So this happened when, again, I was telling my story from the time I was 5 to 11. Well, when I turned 11 years old, my mother pretty much said enough is enough. We are moving from this household. And one morning when this gentleman went to work, my stepfather, we had made plans to leave and go from California all the way to Houston, Texas. And I'll never forget, you guys, because this moment right here, I believe, was teed up by, I don't know what you believe, but let's just say the divine, the universe. And it was teed up so perfectly because I never forget it. I'm 11 years old. It's the first summer away from this frequency, this very heavy, dark frequency. And I'm at this park. And I'm at this park behind my house in Houston, Texas. It's probably 105 degrees. And I'm by myself. And I walk out to this thing I see out in the middle of this park, this teeter-totter. We've all seen these things. And again, I don't know why I did it, but obviously I do now. But I literally stood on the top of this teeter-totter and I balanced myself between the right in the middle. And I don't know why, I don't know when, or just something came over me. And I looked up at the heavens and I said to the heavens, I said, for the rest of my life, you guys, and here's the defining moment in my life. For the rest of my life, I'm going to choose happiness. Okay. So write down the word choose. Now, that became my navigator. That became my compass for everything that I've done. From that moment, from 11 years old on, that was the only filter that I had, was this feeling of happiness. Okay. So you got to understand, as a kid, I grew up in a very unhappy environment. I wasn't happy as a kid. I was always stressed out. Again, I was sucking the thumb, peeing the bed. I had a lot of pressure, plus school, plus sports, plus, wondering if he was going to come home in a bad mood, wondering if I was going to get a spanking for nothing, wondering if I was going to have to go outside and pull weeds because we lived on an acreage, just wondering, what was going to be thrown at me next, pretty much is kind of the feeling I had. So I didn't know what happiness was. And so for me to stand on that teeter-totter and look up at the heavens and go, I'm going to choose happiness as my filter for the rest of my life, was a big defining moment. I knew what unhappiness was. And so here's why I'm sharing this with you, because as now I tell the rest of what we're about to learn today, you'll understand why I started seeing the world differently. Every action I've done since I've been 11 years old, from that moment, that defining moment in my life, has been in the pursuit or the feeling or the frequency of happiness. Okay. All I knew is if it felt heavy. So for example, if I was later in life, I was going to take a job and it felt heavy, or it just smelled or tasted like awkward, or I couldn't smile, it didn't bring a joy to my heart, I would say no. It wasn't bringing me happiness. If I was to meet somebody or go on a blind date, or, hey, Tony, you want to join us on this? If it didn't bring like something inside me, like make me feel like, yes, I didn't do it. And I developed that muscle at a very young age. And I've got to tell you guys, it's never steered me wrong. So my whole life and every decision I made in high school, trying out for sports, girls I dated, parties I went to or did not go to, jobs I took or did not take, careers I chose or did not choose, all was in the pursuit of the word happiness. So I'm going to invite all of you to find a word for you that is so deeply embedded. Now, remember, this was so deeply embedded because I knew unhappiness. I knew, frowns and cries and tears. So I just needed to choose something that was the opposite of that. Okay. So happiness became my filter for everything that I did. And in that, I started learning things. I understood learning things about happy frequencies, how to alter and change my feeling in an instant. Okay, because I didn't want to feel bad. I didn't want to feel heavy. I didn't want to feel depressed. I didn't want to feel sad. I didn't want to feel belittled. I didn't want to feel so I learned at a very young age how to shift my frequency. And since everything is a frequency, as you guys know, everything is a vibration, then everything is energy. I just need to shift my energy. And what I love about frequency is everything is frequency. Everything's vibration. The trees, the rocks that you see off in the distance, the mountains, the birds, our thoughts carry a frequency, our dreams, nature, everything, the choices we make, everything is a frequency. And we can tune in and out of these frequencies anytime that we want. And we see the world as a reflection and we don't like what we see, then we need to be, have some type of filter that goes, okay, this doesn't feel good. I want to shift and manipulate or tune into a different frequency. And it's crazy. We get to choose anything that we want at any given time. Like right now, you guys could choose right now to just bounce and get off this and go do something else. You could have chose, I don't want to I'll catch the replay. You could say, hey, look, I want to be mean today. I want to be angry today. I want to be, sad today. I want to be happy. You guys, we get to choose all of that. And so like a radio station, you guys, you can, again, if this, you don't like the sound of the music, you can change it. And I kind of use the analogy when I talk to people because, back in the day, there's this thing called XM paid radio where, this idea of XM radio, Sirius came out and people go, no one's going to pay money to listen to the radio. But the reality is people didn't like listening to commercials. We didn't like listening to two good songs. And then on the radio station, you hear 5, 10 commercials. And so how should our lives be any different? If we don't like what we see, if we don't like the way we feel, then we should be able to change the station. We should be able to tune into something else. And that's why I love Sirius XM radio so much, because now if I want to listen to 80s music, if I just want to rock out to whatever, I get to, and commercial free, uninterrupted, and I can stay in that frequency. So again, this is how we manifest. This is how we create. This is how we make change, is we get into a frequency that I say is yummy. I call it a juicy frequency, something that feels good, that resonates at the highest vibration for you. And you got to figure out how to stay in it. And when you stay in it, change happens. When you stay in it, the world will start to shift. When you stay in it, the reflection and the things that are coming back to you, the things you're giving out and things are coming back, take on a whole different vibration. And so I want you to understand that you guys all have this amazing ability to shift and change and manipulate frequencies. And here's what was really, really key. So imagine a kid who's going up and having this heaviness, this heavy frequency. And I always had a good personality, even though it was heavy. I always had this happy personality. I always saw the good thing. I always saw things as lessons. I always kept asking myself, what do I need to learn from this? I always put a positive spin on everything. I took the Gallup Strength Finder quiz. If you guys not done that, take the Gallup Strength Finder. My number one strength is positivity. I can always find something positive. Well, it's really, really interesting because as I realize these things now, all I have to do is maintain a personality that resonates at the highest vibration for me. That feels the best for me, you guys, because that personality has now become my personal reality. And for those that read Dr. Joe Dispenza, which one of my great teachers, I got a chance to go out to Peru and meet him and go to an event, you guys, and study underneath for like 2 years, just to know that we have the ability to shift and change, and that our personalities are our personal reality. You guys, when I realized that, it's like it changed everything for me. So I always was told by my teachers, I've always had coaches, I've always had teachers, hey, Tony, make sure you have the best attitude in the room. Hey, Tony, always have a smile on your face. Hey, Tony, see the good in people. Like, this has just been who I am. And it's crazy. The world that I live in, a lot of people can't even relate to. And you might be the same way. People might see you and go, man, I just can't relate to you. You're so out there, right? But you guys, this is my reality, is my personality. So my personality is positive, upbeat. I have no idea what's happening 90% of the time in the world, unless somebody sneaks under the radar, sneaks under the radar and tells me, and somehow it pops up on a Facebook feed or a social media post or something like that. But for the most part, my personality is so high vibe and high conscious that I am reflecting and receiving all of that is high vibe and high conscious. When you understand this, when people get this, okay, your life is going to shift. And it doesn't take forever. Guys, it's fast. You ever notice when somebody's, a negative Nanny or somebody loves to gossip, everything around them is a big gossip thing. All they want to do is talk about gossip. All they want to do is rain on your parade. All they want to do is, that's their personality. Right? All these people that have trauma in their life, these people that have dysfunction, or these people go, the woe is me people. You guys, that's their personality. They've sunk down into something that's not the best version of themselves. Let's just be really, really real. It's not the best version of ourselves. I believe we were put on this planet for magnificence. I believe we were all put on this planet to discover how magnificent we are, right? That's what I believe. So that's my reality. And that's why when I coach and I work with people, I work with businesses, and I do speaking, and I wrote a book even, like all of this has to deal with my personality and how I see things, which is really interesting. So when you're working with people, when you're talking with people, is know that their personality, you need to figure out a way to bring that personality out of them, their true personality. And because the reality is, being a negative Nanny and being, ridden with trauma issues and all that, guys, we all have that. We all have it at different degrees, different layers. Okay. We all have it. So it's just a choice. That's why I said choose the beginning, choose. In fact, in my book that I wrote, the first chapter is the book of choice, is we all have this amazing ability to make choices. And so I want you to understand that your personality is your personal reality. And if you're vibing way up here, if you're way up in this area right here, you're not going to see all the stuff down here. You're not going to hear about all the stuff down here, right? You just won't. You're not even tuned into that station. If you're tuned into jazz, how are you going to hear hip hop? It's just not going to happen. If you're tuned in the 80s, how are you going to hear Kenny G? Well, was Kenny G in the 80s? Probably was. Okay. Doesn't matter. You guys get the point. So I always make sure that I am in a frequency, a creative frequency, with my navigator being this happy thing, okay? This feeling of being happy, which is light, which is free, which is joy, which is peace, which is strength, which is confidence, which is all the things you're probably feeling right now for me. So that's how I want to show up. And in that, only goodness shows up. The fact that you guys are here tells me that you're in that same frequency, maybe at a different level, but you're here with me. So you've tuned into that, and now we're listening to the same music together, right? We're learning about ourselves from a different perspective, which is this perspective of our personalities, or the perspective of everything is potentially a reflection. Here's another big aha moment that I had, and this one completely, when I work with people, and y'all can steal this one. I mean, we're all using the same material for the most part. It just comes at different times in our lives. But I see everything. I want you to be very clear when I say this. I see everything as a teacher. Everything, including the colors that I wear, including the car that I drive, including the place that I live, including the family that I grew up with, including the job, the career. Everything I feel in my frequency, in my reflection, okay, in my reality, everything I feel is a teacher for me. And until I get that feeling of, that really good feeling, that teacher is going to keep showing up. So, for example, let's say you have a negative friend that keeps showing up, that keeps trying to get into your energy field, okay, and disrupt you, okay? And by the way, that person can be a spouse, that person can be a family member, like a mother or a father. It doesn't matter. Why does that keep happening? Why does that feeling like, oh my God, here it comes again. Oh my God, I'm getting sick to my stomach. Oh my God. Why is that keep happening again and again and again and again? It is a reflection of something that you have yet to learn and move through and work through and deal with. And maybe it's dealing with it in a different way than you've ever dealt with it. Oh, in the past, I used just to walk away. In the past, in my old Tony self, I used to, I don't want to deal with it. I would walk away. Time will heal it, right? Well, okay, so time would heal whatever was going on at that moment. But again, a month later, 2 months later, another feeling that felt like that, right? Another, oh gosh, why is that so heavy? It'd show up again until Tony dealt with it. When I saw everything, including the colors that I wear, right, as a teacher for me, does everything I have around me resonate with me? Does everything feel good? Does everything put in a way that I want it? And if not, am I, because I'm so magnificent, and guys, it's not an ego thing. Don't take it as an ego thing, but I believe we're all here for magnificence. Am I, in my magnificent self, able to manipulate that reflection of that? Am I able to do that? I don't know. You get to decide that. And if you keep doing it the same way you've always done, why does it keep showing up? So my recommendation is, if you've dealt with David many times, you've dealt with Mary many times, you've dealt with your mother many times a certain way, My recommendation was, because she is a master teacher, master. Okay. I would say you become a master and figure out how to manipulate that. Again, not in a bad way, but how to manipulate that maybe differently than you've ever done. Okay. When I saw everything as teachers, including, again, the colors I wear, sometimes I put on blue, I feel different when I put on blue than I put on red. When I'm going for it, man, and I've got my green on, or I got my green or my blue on, it's like, man, it's just like I'm unstoppable. Walking with nature. I live on 3.5 acres here in Nebraska. I live literally in a forest. I live underground in a berm home. This was something I did, wanted to have, and I manipulated energy to have certain things happen to where now I live in that. I take my shoes off, and the earth teaches me. I know people look at me and go, "That's weird, Tony." Really, is it? I don't know. I'm pretty happy. I'm 57 years old. I feel like I'm 7. So I must be doing something right. I must have figured out something. And something as simple as walking with my shoes teaches me something. Okay. So there are teachers everywhere, you guys. And I want you to take a moment, and we don't have to spend a lot of time here, but I like you to take a moment of your life and just reflect. Reflect. I don't live in the past. In fact, I believe the only time you should live in your past is when you're looking for your keys. Maybe you can't find the keys to your car. Like, that's the only time you should live in your past. But let's just say right now, if we're at our life right now, and if we were to look outside of this moment that we have right here, what are the things in your life right now that need a little bit of manipulating, right? What in your health could you focus in on that might need some manipulation? When I work with clients, the very first place I start, you guys, is always with health. Always with health. I have to make sure that this body, this vehicle that people are lugging around with them, it is on a growth curve, right? It's growing, it's getting better, not weaker, it's getting stronger, right? So I always start there, because if you have a healthy body, the rest is easy, to be honest with you. Like, the mind stuff is really easy. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. The mind stuff is easy to deal with. The physical side. So look at your life right now with regards to your health. What is the reflection, right, that's happening with regards to health? Is your life healthy? Not just physical, but do you have a healthy bank account? Do you have a healthy relationships? Do you have health? And all of that, that's a reflection of you. So start with your health. Love. What is the love like in your life right now? Are you alone? Are you saddened? That love of self is where I always start. It's funny. My wife and I, we always talk about, she always knows when Tony's got to love on himself. So I'll go play golf. I'll do something. I'll go play with my dogs, even if it's for 5 minutes, just to reconnect with myself, right? To reflect from myself love. Because the more I can love myself, as you guys have all heard this before, the more you can love everything else, right? The more everything else is loving. But look at your personal relationships. When you look at the reflection of everything, look at all of it. Look at your the relationship with yourself. Look at your career, the adventure, or maybe you don't have any adventure in your life. Your home that you've created is an amazing, amazing teacher for you. My wife and I, it's crazy. I have this studio in my house. I do a lot of my self work, and I have clients that fly in and we do a lot of work together. I call it the portal. And my portal, like, it seems like every 30 days, every 45 days, it shifts. I change the energy of it. I take off this post and I put this one up. I shift energy around. So I'm constantly manipulating energy and moving it, right? For whatever, so that I feel good. So I'm reflecting something that feels good to me, right? And that reflection is coming back to me. It's crazy how different is just painting a wall in your house, or getting rid of cleaning out your closet. How amazing and liberating that is. It's something so simple. Again, if something you look at is heavy, like, for example, if I looked at my closet and I saw shoes all over the place, and it brings a feeling of just, I don't want to say heaviness, or just doesn't feel good, where else is that showing up in my life? Where else do I have to declutter in my life? And I'm going to help you guys with that. So the next steps for you, the next steps for somebody that is on a path, once they understand that, okay, I get it. My personality, I need to work on that. I need to shift that. I need to become a better version of myself. I need to tune into my magnificence, whatever that is. So whatever I got to do, I'm going to do it. Maybe it's meditation. Maybe it's eating different. Maybe it's exercising. Maybe, it's learning a new hobby. You'll know what that next step is going to be for you. You're going to know, but you got to get quiet, and you got to shut your cell phone off. You got to unplug from the matrix. You got to be intentional. Okay. Be intentional so that you can go out there and start to listen and feel what needs to be done. And the first thing you got to ask yourself on anything that you're working on is, what do you want? I want you to write down these words. What do you want? So in your case, it'd be, what do I want? What do I want? So many people that I work with, and probably you do too, so always say, well, I don't want this. I don't want him. I don't want my husband to do this. I don't want my wife. I don't want my kids, to get sick. I worry about them when you go there. I don't want, I don't want to keep having these bills keep on. That is the wrong frequency to be in order to create change. What's better is, what do I want? What do I want? What do I want? What do I want with my health? What do I want with my career? What do I want with my clients? What do I want with my home life? What do I want with my relationships? What do I want? Okay. So when we ask that question, now we're opening ourselves up for something wonderful to happen. Okay. Not what I don't want. Look, I know you don't want dysfunction. I know you don't want the, struggling and all that. I know you don't want that. We get it. But what do you gotta ask yourself, what is it that you do want? The Spice Girls are back there because they have one of my favorite songs I always play. Tell me what I want, what I really, really want. I love that because I want to make sure I'm asking, Tony, what do you want? What do you want right now? What do you want from this experience? What do you want from this conversation that you're doing this morning? Right? I want to get better. My intention for me is to be a better person with regards to teaching on this subject. Okay. So that's what I want. Okay. So, and there's stuff coming to me that's just happening. The other thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to find a guide of some sort. You need to find something, and it could be a YouTube, it could be a book. It doesn't matter. Like, I just bought an amazing book, 3 books actually, guys, just to help me, because book guides are books as well. But you need to find somebody that can take your stuff, your issues that are in your tissues, right? That we carry around with us. And you need to have somebody that's been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, that can help you expedite everything. That's why it's interesting. This talk is about reflection, because it should be the talk that's at the very, very, very end of something that I'm working on. But for me, it's the end in mind. Like, I want to make sure that my world, that what I'm projecting, and that's what's bouncing back to me, like, it feels yummy. It feels amazing. So I've had teachers along the way. I cannot tell you how much money I've spent over my lifetime, probably well over $250,000 on things, whether I'm traveling to go meet someone, coaching, books, seminars, tapes. Guys, I love that though. The person I am today, the success that I have today, the abundance I have today is because of these things, finding people or being open to guides showing up at a certain time. So we know then that what we got to do. We got to ask ourselves, what do we want? We got to find a guide if we need one, okay, which we all do. Everybody has got some type of person that's giving them counsel. And then we got to do the thing that my dad used to say when I was a kid, I used to hate, is go pull some weeds. He used to say this all the time. Tony, get outside, pull weeds. Guys, get outside, pull weeds. It was when we did something bad, or just when he was bored with us being in the house, he'd always have us pulling weeds. So as a kid, okay, it was a very negative, heavy frequency. But as an adult, God, what's the blessing it was to go through that experience, because I see now the good and what pulling a weed actually does mean. In my world today, what used to be heavy actually feels really good. In fact, I live on an acreage where I'm pulling weeds all the time. In your life, there are weeds that need to be pulled. There are people, there are ideas, there are thoughts, there are feelings that you're holding on to, that you look at, that that are there, that you see it every day. Or not, sometimes you see it and then a week goes by, you don't see it or don't feel it. And all of a sudden you see it again and you don't pull the weed. Growth happens when you pull weeds. Growth happens when you start to tend to your garden. Growth happens when you start creating space, okay, so that you can breathe, so you can allow something to grow. And if everything is all congested, if everything's all compacted, it's very, very difficult for that to happen. So you got to pull weeds. And the second I said that, some of you went, oh my God, yeah, I definitely got to get rid of that person. I got to block that person. I got to have that conversation with that person. You guys, you got to do it. Okay. You got to do it because it's so important. Your objective is to discover you. That's your only objective. People go, well, no, I got family and I got responsibilities, Tony, and I got kids and going through college and high school and blah, blah, blah. Pick something. It's always going to be like that. There's always going to be something. There's always going to be something else that's more important than working on you, because we're humans and we want to help others, and we want to make sure everybody else is okay, and blah, 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 blah. I'm here to tell you, you discover you. You become the best version of love. You become the best version of health. You become the best version of abundance. You become the best version of magnificence. And watch how simple life starts to happen around you. Things that used to be difficult, you guys, they're not difficult anymore. Like, I don't remember when I had a bad day. Like a day that some people go, oh my God, did you hear what happened to him? Like, no, I don't know. I have no idea what you're talking about. So it's very important you guys discover you. And in that discovery, you have to have an intention. Like, why are you doing this? Like, why did you guys show up on this call? Why are you watching this again? Why are you, part of this group? Why are you going to that event? Why are you, going to invest money in yourself again? Why are you doing that? Ask yourself that. What is your intention behind it? What was your intention by showing up today? We don't even ask ourselves. We just do it. Like, we just go, oh, what's this? Oh, I got to Zoom. And we pop on it, like, with no intention. It's funny, when I go to a restaurant, like, I will take the bowl or what I've ever eaten, and I will hold it up and I'll just kind of smell it first. I'll just smell it. Do you realize that the smell is the most insane, amazing sense that we have? And when you smell your food, you actually can taste everything you're about to eat. And it actually tastes better when you eat it. So I'm very intentional when I eat my food. And I'm just thankful that, however that avocado coming from Chile or Mexico or whatever, how it got on my plate. Like, I'm very intentional and grateful for that. And that's why I feel that my age doesn't mean anything, because everything's a vibration. So I take things in and I change the vibration even of my food. So what is your intention when you do anything from this moment forward, as you're now discovering your personality, as you're going out and creating, as you're maybe looking for whatever your navigating word's going to be? Like, what is the intention behind it? Just don't have one just to have it. Have an intention behind it, and it takes on so much more. And I want to share with you guys a word that just came to me recently in a book I'm reading called affluence. Affluence. Now, I don't know when's the last time I've ever even used that word. I've used the word affluent because I'm, affluent in Spanish or something like that. It's probably not even the right word, but affluence is when you're flowing in abundance. And if I look back on my life and I look back at the mirror and the reflection that I've created, you guys, I've been flowing in abundance. Not an abundance is not just money. It's not just the bank account, you guys. Abundance for me is doing what I love to do every day, around the people that I love to be around, having the energy, the health, the consciousness that I have to be able to embrace life at the highest level. Like, that's abundance, right? Millions of dollars in the bank, been there, done that. Okay, that's cool, but that's not abundance. That was a tax deal. That's what that was. That was a tax pain in the butt, was what that was. In abundance, have affluence in your life. Find affluence in your life. Flow in abundance in your life, and watch what happens. Watch what happens to you when you make these shifts in your personality. Watch what happens when you make these shifts in different things, part of your life. Watch things start to take shape. The things that used to put a lot of energy and used to force and used to go, gotta get it fixed, and I gotta go do this, and I gotta figure out a way. All of that energy, okay, when it's released. And this is the most difficult thing for people, especially people that I work with and I coach, is for them to surrender and know they don't have to pull. You don't have to tug. You don't have to squeeze. You don't have to take, kidney punches. You don't have to do that. You just have to, what is it I want, with the right intention, the right smile on your face, the right tools in place to do it, the process to do it, and watch what happens, you guys. Your only goal, your only role, if you decide to, it's all individual. If you decide to take on this mission of life and truly have affluence in your life, right? This flow in abundance, is to get into a juicy frequency. Okay, frequency where you're just, man, this feels divine. This feels amazing. Get into that frequency, okay, and figure out how to stay there. That's the key to life. It's not the roller coaster where you're up and down and, all that, you guys. Yes, bumps are going to happen. People are going to die. People are going to get sick. You're going to lose a job. You're going to lose a client. You're going to gain a client. You're going to, get a new house. Like, that's just life. You're just going to have all these things. But when you're in this frequency of goodness, when a bump happens, it's like, boop, just like that. It's kind of like somebody's flatlining almost, that's laying in bed, and the heart, you can see their heartbeat going. That's kind of what you want. You don't want this roller coaster. And so my wish for all of you is is to, number one, know that everything's a reflection. Know that your personality is your reality at any given moment. So if you don't like what's happening, shift your personality. It might take a little bit of time for the universe to shift with you, because it's going to question you, see if you really, really want that. Make sure you find a word that just feels good and figure out how to get into that word and let that be your compass. Let that one word, doesn't have to be a whole series. Hey, I got this blueprint. I got this map. It's all mapped out. I got 29 steps to success. Really? Man, it doesn't have to be that difficult. Okay, it doesn't be that difficult. It could be literally one thing. Focus on one thing. For me, it's one word. Does this feel happy? Nope, I'm not going to do it. Hey, I'm not going to go, Mom. Okay, fine. You guys have fun. I'll see you. Get to the next one. If it feels good, then I'll do it. And then be intentional about everything that you're doing. Guys, if you have any questions about anything I'm doing, you guys reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you on email. Love to collaborate. My big thing this year is collaboration with people. My website's on there, positivity.expert. That's actually a website of a course I have. And then my Flow with Mojo, that's my YouTube channel. So you guys can feel free to follow me on there. But I am so excited about the journey that we are all on. I'm excited about the journey that you guys are on. And I'm excited about the journey that I'm on as well, because it's never ending. You know, the Buddhists always talk about, you know, enlightenment. If you're a Buddhist, you know, this monk, you're on this path of enlightenment. You guys, they never have enlightenment. They have glimpses of it. They see pieces of it, but they keep going. It's never over. And that's what's so beautiful about our lives. It's never over, right? We just keep going and going and going to the light. And we get pieces of like, oh my God, that's amazing. Oh, that's phenomenal. Oh, that's awesome. Right? Then you know you're on the right path. Okay. So I'm going to leave. Anybody have any questions on anything we talked about? Did you learn anything today? Say yes. Are you going to see yourself? See yourself in a different light now? Maybe a different way you're going to manipulate things in your life? Yeah.
So Tony, first of all, thank you very much for your time. You and I have a lot of this similar messages. We just have a different, approach,
Yeah.
I always say flip it a little bit versus manipulate. So it's the same concept, right? Long time ago. And I coach people, I tell them to do this as well, is to write letters to yourself. Right. Because I think when we look and see, like when we write a letter to somebody and there's something about a person that we love, then we know that that's our reflection. But at the same time, if there's something about somebody that kind of annoys us, that's also our reflection. And that to me is the spot that you need to work on and look at. I think everything you said is absolutely excellent. It's interesting. What I did learn is, what I never really thought about before, is that my whole life, my nickname has been Sunshine. Everywhere I go, people call me Sunshine. People who hardly know me, for like a day or two will call me and they'll say, "Hey, Sunshine, how are you?" So that was kind of interesting. That's kind of, it's always been my vibe, if you will, putting the positivity. I do have a question for you, though, something that's been, I guess I've been noodling on a little bit. Because I'm like you, is that I always like to look at the positive of life and how can we, make this a positive. But I think what I hear a lot about, and you and I are probably very similar in the fact that we read a lot of books and we put a lot of time into being the best version of who we are. I do hear the word toxic positivity a lot. And, sometimes I get concerned with, am I being toxic positivity, or is this just how I'm choosing to live my life? And is this just another? So when I hear the word toxic positivity, I think they're trying to bash people like you and me. We're the happy people, and then it's the negative people. So when you hear that term, what is it you think about?
Yeah, so I have a different perspective on that, but I love that. So there's in fact, I encourage you guys, since you're coaches, is to spend the $29 or $39 if you've not taken the Gallup Strength Finder test, to take it. It will change you. So for example, my number one strength is positivity. Okay, so they have this thing called living in your basement. So check this out, and this is probably goes hand in hand with what you're saying. I'm positive. So if I walk into a room and I'm positive, and I start spreading my energy around and people are like not getting me or whatever, I can be a very negative person to people. Like I can literally shut down and go, let's just get out of here. This is not my, and people will see that like, look at him. What's wrong with Tony? What I'm telling myself is if you guys are going to come up to my level, then pretty much forget you guys. And if you don't see it my way, if you don't see the goodness that's happening because that car just went off the bridge and 25 people died, which that's kind of graphic, but if you don't understand the lesson in that, then you're missing out. Like you don't even know you don't even know what you're talking about. So see, some people, like if I go into a room and I'm positive and I'm quiet, people think there's something wrong with me. Like what's wrong with Tony? He's not like his normal happy self. It's because I'm not, number one, I don't really want to be there. Number two, I might have had 2 or 3 conversations that were toxic in my way because they weren't seeing what I was trying to maybe coach them on or help them through. Like if somebody comes to me for advice and I give it to them and they don't follow through with it, I can become perceived as, oh, Tony, he's just he doesn't understand me. He doesn't get what I'm trying to say. When I actually do, I'm just trying to say it in a way that would be more positive and simplified than the way that they want to make it. They might want to drag out a problem for a period of time and mull around in it. I'm saying, no, here's what you got to do. You got to do this. Like, do this right now. Call him, tell him.
Yeah,
yes.
Tony, don't you find though that most people I have found, especially people that I coach, they'd rather sit around and marinate in it versus take the action. And we can't be responsible for them taking the action or not taking the action. That's a personal, that's their, that's their responsibility. And we can talk more, and I don't want to hold everybody up, but you and I should probably talk because I feel like we have similar energies and similar theories in how we coach.
Absolutely. In fact, one of the things is exactly what you just said, Lisa, is that I had to, because I was raised with a terrible, terrible father, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I had my son's 21 years old right now, when I would have this feeling of like, God, why is he not cleaning his room? And I had this, I want to say rage, but this like, oh my God, like my stepfather would say, come here for a second, wham, go clean your room, right? And when you're done doing that, go pull weeds. So I had to figure out how to navigate through that with happiness. So I'd always would say to my son, Tony, his name is Tony as well. Tony, can I talk to you for a second? And even though I was raging, I would say, look, first of all, I want you to know something. Like, I love you. Okay. Like, I respect what you're doing. I'm proud of you. However, while you're here in this house, this has to be done. This needs to be done because here's why. Okay. And so I had to like go an extra mile to help. Now, whatever my son did from that conversation, how he took that, oh, my dad's being a jerk, or he's going to like, he doesn't get, that's his perception. As long as I came from here and I spoke my truth with love and was very whatever, how he responded to that, like he'll probably tell his friends, yeah, I can't go because my dad asked me to clean my freaking room again. And that's probably what he told his friends. Even though I said it in a loving way for him, his perception is the way he's gonna take it. And it is what it is. I just have to know that I'm good. So when I coach somebody, I got to know that when I'm coaching from the heart and that I'm good. Here's what my intention is. It's going to sting a little bit, but that's okay. Know that you're loved. And that person has judgment after that, like that's always their deal. Right. So yeah. And it's difficult because that's why a lot of people don't want to have breakthroughs, because they don't want to deal with any of that. They don't want to deal with what people think about them. And God, how's this going to hurt their feelings if I say this? And they don't even want to do it. And they just carry it around and they get comfortable with it. And the brain has this way of making everything in our lives comfortable. It sabotages everything beautiful in our life. Our brain does. Everything beautiful. It's sabotaged by our brain. Our brain always goes, yeah, but hold on a second, Tony. Our heart's going, go do it. Tell them, speak your truth. Come on, you deserve it. Your brain's going, hold on. You tried that before, Tony.
Well, it's funny. That's what my TED Talk is about.
Yeah. Here's all the movies. Here's all the tapes. Here's all the references. Look at that. Yeah. So good.
It was great. Thank you for your time. I love it.